Good evening. This is Sean Coles, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague Ryan Lake, and this is the Talking Puck podcast. I know you're probably wondering, what the hell? I thought this was the weekly roundup hockey edition. Well, we decided to change it, weekly roundup hockey edition. A little too wordy, a little hard to find, if you're on YouTube, whatever.
This one's more straight to the point.
Exactly. We're talking hockey, we're talking puck. So we're going to start off with, as usual, our Canadian team roundup. And we'll start off with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Pretty quiet week for them, honestly. It's only 3 games. They finished the week with a record of 11-11-5. They had a game against the Minnesota Wild where they lost 3-2. That was a little bit of a heartbreaker because Dubnyk played out of this world. They won 4-1 on Saturday against the evil and hated Bruins, and then they lost 3-1 to the Avs again. That was an absolute heartbreaker. But Ryan, what are your thoughts on the week?
Dubnyk did play a really good game. It was kind of one of those games where the Leafs seem to always run into hot goaltending.
Oh, every damn time.
The Leafs can have, 40, well, I guess in Sunday's case, 52 shots or 51 shots.
99 attempts.
Yeah, and, still end up losing a game. So you can't really fault them that they're just running into hot goaltending. Other than that, the game against Boston on Saturday was a pretty impressive win. Other than that, it was, like you said, it was a pretty quiet week for them.
It was. And, the interesting part about when they played the Wild is that Devan Dubnyk, a couple of years ago, everyone's going,
he was garbage.
Exactly, he was garbage. He had absolutely no confidence. He was like 4th or 5th string in Montreal.
He was.
They probably could have used him last year when Carey Price went down, although he was not the Devan Dubnyk at that point that he is now.
No.
So it's good to see him come back, but you only really happen to see that with goalies. Because goalies are an odd bunch. It's more or less all between the ears.
Unless your name is Ilya Bryzgalov.
Oh, well, again, that was something that was between the ears, but what was there was missing.
Yeah, very much.
It was up in the stars. The
big,
universe,
yeah.
so big. But, yeah, it was a quiet week. That game against the Avalanche, that was a good game, but...
It was very back and forth. It was fun to watch.
It was very fun to watch, but I'm guessing more fun if you're an Avs fan.
Which I am.
Yeah. But we will move it along to the Montreal Canadiens, who had a busy week, ending the week with a record of 19-6-4. They played the Kings, where they won 5-4 in shootout. Then they played the Blues, the St. Louis Blues, where they lost 3-2. Played the New Jersey Devils, where they won 5-2. Played the Avs on Saturday, won 10-1. And then played the Bruins, where they lost 2-1 in overtime. So not a great end to the week, but still a pretty solid week nonetheless. That Avs game, man. What happened?
Watching the game on Saturday, it wasn't even so much that, this could be biased being a Colorado fan, but it seemed like every single shot, no matter where it was from, was a routine save, and it was going in. There was you could basically do a wrist shot from your end of ice, and it would somehow find a way in. It was atrocious to watch. To me, though, the biggest thing of the week was the whole Carey Price, blocker punching. Who was it? Was it Palmieri?
Yes.
In the shoulder. And
he gave him a shot to the back of the head.
If you watch the video closely, he skimmed it, missed, and it more hit the actual brunt of it hit his shoulder.
But he had the intent to hit him in the head.
But with the rule states that it's the ref's call, it's up to him to make that call.
From what I heard on that subject was that there is a rule that states if a goalie uses the blocker to cause bodily harm, they must be issued a match penalty.
See, the interpretation of the rule that I was reading was only if it was to the head.
Well, that's what I mean. If they use it to cause injury to the head, and he was aiming for the head.
He was, but from
what I saw on that replay, he did hit him in the back of the head.
If you
and
slow
then
it down,
after that moved on to hitting him in the back because
Oh,
he
yeah.
went, oh crap, I'm not supposed to hit him in the head.
but from the angle of the referee, you actually see like the ref doesn't have a clear vantage point of him hitting him in the head. It looks like, mind you, if you do watch the video and slow it down, he does actually miss. He skims it and then hits the shoulder. But from the ref's angle, it looks like he's hitting him in the shoulder and then the back.
Even if he just skims the back of the head, he's still technically hit him in
Right,
the back of
but
the
again,
head.
that comes down to the ref not having the angle
Well,
of seeing that. It looked like it was hitting him in the shoulder from the ref's view.
Let's put it this way: if he had not been given the match penalty, if the ref hadn't done that, he would have been more vulnerable to supplementary discipline, and most likely, I think, would have gotten a 1-game suspension for it.
Yeah, but he didn't get either.
Well, no, he did get issued the match penalty.
No, he got a double minor. That was it.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah,
A double minor penalty.
He got a double minor, and then there was no further discipline from the league.
That part I knew. That part I knew. For some reason, I thought he got a match penalty, but too much to hope for. Too much to hope for. But yeah, that Carey Price gets away with everything. But that's something that I've been thinking about a fair amount. We'll touch on that.
League protects its stars
The league has to protect its stars, but has to do a better job.
in all
personally.
aspects
And
and all stars.
And there should be a different set of rules for stars than there are. Like that, what's done to them should be taken at a higher account than if someone, let's say, does a headshot to Leo Komarov. I'm sure
Or
lots
to
of people
Matt
want
Cook.
to. Yeah, well, Matt Cook's got it coming.
Yeah, well, he's pretty much retired him at this point, I think.
Yeah. But anyways, we will move on from the Montreal Canadiens and move on to the Ottawa Senators, who finished the week 16-11-2. Not a great week for them, though. They started off with that 8-5 loss against the Penguins, which I think we talked about last week.
We did.
And they won the next game against the Sharks. You know, that's not easy. Sharks are a very good team. But then they lost 4-1 to the Kings and 5-1 to the Ducks. Man, that's not a good week.
They're streaky. It seems like every week we talk about them. One week they're all losses. The next week they're all wins. The next week they're all losses. Yeah. It doesn't seem like they're getting very much consistency. It seems when they do lose, they usually lose pretty big. When they do win, it's usually, 2-3 goals that they win. There's no 2-1 games. No, you know what I mean? There's no...
Yeah, I don't
no
know.
playoff style hockey is what they don't have it right now.
I think their goaltending's been letting them down a little bit, evidently, considering that over the week they let in 19 goals in 1 week. That's brutal. And they're not getting the offense either. And that's something that they were struggling with a little bit before, but they got held to, well, I know they scored 5 against the Penguins, but they had 6 straight goals scored against them. So that wasn't good.
And they were supposed to play a more defensive style, bringing in, was it Guy Boucher?
Yeah, Guy Boucher. But it's Mark Crawford that runs the defense.
Yeah, but it's something there is just, they averaged, they allowed, the most goals they scored this week was 5. They still let in 8 that game.
Yeah.
And then the most they managed to score the rest of the week was 2.
Well, no, they scored 4 against the Sharks.
Oh, sorry. They beat the Sharks. Yeah, but other than that, they
scored 2 goals in 2 games.
You're not going to win. Now, the only thing really on the plus side that Ottawa has had this week, as I was saying to you earlier, is Craig Anderson's wife posted a picture on, I believe it was either her Twitter or her Instagram, where she's responding to treatment, and her tumor is actually shrinking in size now.
Well, hopefully that all continues. That is fantastic to hear. But hopefully they can get Craig Anderson back because they need him badly.
Yeah, as of right now, like I said earlier, he's still away with his wife. Yeah. But hopefully, she recovers. Hopefully they can put this in the past and he can step forward and be the goalie because he's a good goalie.
He's a very good goalie. He's got to pick up that mantle again for them to continue winning consistently. But they got off to a pretty hot start. They were riding good goaltending in their defense to keep them in games, but I'm almost starting to wonder if the bottom's coming out a little bit and if they're going to fall out of contention here for a playoff spot.
Even if they don't, I can see where you're coming from, but I get the feeling that it's just going to be like this the rest of the year. One good week, one bad week. One good week, one bad week.
Which you can't really afford, though.
Oh, not at all. You're not going to make the playoffs or go anywhere by that, but I don't see them doing anything better, really. Unless they pick it up offensively and defensively and better goaltending.
I think the offense has been coming a bit. They obviously didn't have they obviously had a bad ending to the week in in that regard. But they're getting a little more used to the system, and I think some of their main guys were a little unsure of where to be in their positioning and how they were supposed to play. And for those first 2 games of the week, they were clicking.
Well, and they did play 4 pretty powerhouse teams. You got the Penguins, then 3 Western Conference pretty big powerhouses in the Sharks, the Kings, and the Ducks.
Yeah, and,
big physical teams,
especially with the Kings and the Ducks, and they pretty well got run out of the arenas. Like I watched a bit of that Ducks game on, I think it was Sunday night, and yeah, the Ducks were just rolling right over them. There was no response.
Even the Kings, like your Kings are playing with a 4th string goalie pretty much in Peter Budaj, and you know Zakhov's in and out of there being hurt too, and you
Quick
can't
is going to
lose.
be like another 2 or 3 months.
From what they were saying, what Sutter was saying is that he's still in rehab mode. It'll be at least a month before that changes, and when it changes, it's not going to be back to playing. It's going to be getting back into shape and then testing it. So it's going to be probably at least another 2 months, maybe more, before Quick's even back.
Yeah. So hopefully they can pick it up. I'd like to see more Canadian teams in the playoffs. The Ottawa Senators, I'm kind of iffy on because, Battle of Ontario, I like to see them lose. What can I say? But we're going to move it along to the Winnipeg Jets, who are sitting with a record currently of 13-16-3. They started off the week with, a really good win against the Chicago Blackhawks, 2-1 win. I watched a bit of that game. The Hawks could just not get anything going against them, but that might have been down to the fact that Taves has been injured.
And he's been out for a while.
He's back tonight, though. That's what I saw, which is good because, it's always good to see him back and playing because he is a lot of fun to watch. But then they played, Winnipeg played the Detroit Red Wings, where they lost 4-3 in shootout. They then played the Rangers, where they lost 2-1. Then the Flames, where they lost 6-2. And the Oilers, where they lost 3-2. Now, I know the Jets are a little banged up. They're pretty tired because they've played, I think, the most games out of almost everyone in the entire league. But they, it's like we were saying last week. They've got to be winning now.
And 3 points out of a possible 10 in 1 week is not going to cut it.
Oh, no, it's not. And that's why they're sitting now with a record of 13-16-3.
And, they played, like you said, a mixture of not having Taves, but Winnipeg did grind out a 2-1 win against the Hawks. But they lost to the Wings, then they lost to the Rangers, then they lost to the Flames, then they lost to the Oilers.
And at least a couple of those teams, they should be fairly easily able to beat. Now I know the Flames have been on a bit of a roll.
Well, the Red Wings are hurt, probably even more than
the Red Wings, in my opinion, are a shadow of their former selves.
Oh yeah,
they don't have that high end talent that they managed to find diamonds in the rough with for all their late end picks that were with the team for over 10 years. Like Zetterberg isn't Zetterberg anymore.
No.
Datsuk's not there. Johan Franzen is basically injured.
Non-existent.
Yeah, he's injured the majority of the time now because they're all getting upwards 40. So that should have been a team ripe for the picking, and that they should have won and not just gotten 1 point out of.
And it doesn't help that your game-winning goal against the Oilers that you score is on your own net.
Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate for Patrick Laine. I was a little happy to see that because I know I've made my feelings felt about him before. He's kind of got that that jaw that's just aching for someone to punch him.
Now my question is, if they're on a power play and they score on their own net, is it a power play goal for the other team or is it a shorthanded goal?
It would be a shorthanded goal, but it would be pretty funny to see it go up as power play by accident. Although, no, because if it were credited as an own goal, I wonder if it would be a power play at that point.
So I'm not 100% sure on that one.
It's hard for that to happen. He's going to be like, what's his name? Patrick Stefan, I think it was, that played for the Stars.
Yes,
yeah, everyone's going in on the open net. He tried to chip it in, puck bounced, he fell. Yeah. Edmonton went back and scored.
Luckily Dallas ended up still winning that game, but that was probably
they lost.
I thought they won in overtime.
No, Edmonton lost that, or Edmonton won that game.
I swear that's.
But anyways, he has been just absolutely destroyed for years.
Oh yeah.
Like that's always brought back up, and that's going to happen to Patrick Laine. Eventually down the road, I think he'll get over it and won't feel so badly, and he might be able to laugh with the rest of us, going, "Oh yeah, good joke."
Was it Blake Wheeler that was sitting down with him right after and showing his leadership skills by kind of getting his head back in it? It was kudos to him, but
yeah, that was good leadership. Gaff. But you know what's interesting is that I was reading an article today that was doing a comparison of Matthews and Laine, because there was a Winnipeg reporter who said unequivocally Laine's better.
Oh, I mean, it's biased. It's Winnipeg.
Obviously, it's a little biased, but they decided the author of this article decided to sit down and take a little bit of a look at it, and Laine's shooting at a 20% rate.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to keep that up.
Oh, not at all.
He'll end up coming back down to probably 10 to 12%, much more within the range, and that's where Austin Matthews is sitting now. Although I know we talked about this earlier, Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine, very different players.
Oh, completely different ends of the spectrum.
You can't really compare them, but people are still going to because they're the number 1 and number 2 picks. Personally, I'm happier with Matthews,
and Winnipeg will be happier with a guy like Laine because Toronto needed a guy like Matthews. Winnipeg has guys like Scheifele and guys like that where they needed the more pure goal scorer.
But that's the thing as well, is that I think Laine looks a little better because he's playing with more experienced players.
But again, like we were going back to, like, I think both teams got exactly what they needed.
Oh, for sure.
Because regardless of whether you compare their numbers, one's a center, one's a winger. Both teams got what they needed. Toronto needed a true number 1 center for the future.
Yep.
Winnipeg needed front top scoring depth, which they didn't have. They had the all around guy like Scheifele who can do it in the defensive end.
Well, Nick Ehlers is supposed to be that scoring guy. He's more of a playmaker these days, but I think that's just because he hasn't developed his shot yet. But
there's two guys that Winnipeg already had that Toronto necessarily didn't have, so that's why they went the Matthews route. Sure. So I mean, it's win-win for both. You look at the numbers comparatively, one's shooting at 20% with 17 goals.
Yeah.
Austin Matthews had like a 12 or 13 goal scoring streak, but he scored 6 in the last 8 games.
Yeah.
So it really, it is still too early in their careers to compare too much. I say give it the end of the year and then more. But again, like you said, they're number 1, 2 pick. That's the only reason why they're being compared.
Yeah, so Winnipeg, stop throwing stones, man. Ours is better. But we'll move along to the Calgary Flames, who... Man, they've been on a roll lately.
They've finally got their goaltending kind of situated.
A little bit. They're riding the hot hand still. I don't know. I forgot to look if Brian Elliott played any of the games this week. I would assume they probably played 1 or 2. But, despite being like one of the last place teams in the league, they're sitting now with a record of 16, 13, and 2. That's not bad, especially in the Western Conference, which is surprisingly weaker this year. It
is weaker. But the teams that are still your top teams are still just as tough as they always are.
Absolutely.
But they beat some good tough teams. They beat Dallas, who's been pretty terrible this year. To be honest.
Yeah, they have been. They beat the Ducks. They gave the Ducks a beatdown.
Now the Ducks. There's a funny story about that Ducks game. Is Bernier was in net.
Yep.
And he got roasted for all 8 goals because they couldn't put Gibson in the game because Gibson had diarrhea.
Oh man. Can you imagine being in net and just little bits of brown coming out on it?
Be pretty embarrassing.
That would be humiliating.
Yeah, so he was kind of stuck in net, and it was all because of the splats.
Can you imagine, though, John Gibson now trying to go out partying, trying to, meeting some ladies, and they go, wait a minute, aren't you the guy that couldn't play the other night because you had diarrhea?
Yeah, it's not going to do good for his personal life.
Yeah. His image might be hurting a little bit.
I think my next
with the whole hockey world knowing that he had the brown rain.
Next year for Halloween, I'm going to go out with a goalie with white pants and brown stains on the
back. But yeah, they went into Arizona and won 2-1 in overtime and absolutely destroyed the Jets 6-2. They've been on a 6-game winning streak basically since they beat the Leafs the other week. Like, really? This is what kicks off your winning streak?
really, though, they're getting the defense that they didn't have at the beginning of the year, too.
And scoring.
Dougie Hamilton is playing phenomenally right now.
Yeah.
And he was kind of iffy at the beginning of the year.
To the point where they were debating trading him.
Right.
And you know what, though? I think Sean Monahan has gotten out of his funk a little bit.
He stepped it up.
And getting Johnny Gaudreau back. That you can't describe how much he means to that team. It's like Patrick Kane, but, I would say more important.
It's basically like any team losing their star player. It's like how well Pittsburgh plays when they get Crosby back, or Pittsburgh will play well without Crosby because that's just their system.
Well, because they've got Malkin.
Yeah, and they've got Kessler who's tearing it up too.
Yeah, he is.
But you look at like any team that loses one of their top, or if not their top offensive star, they're going to play better once they get him back all around because they're going to be rejuvenated.
Yep. Well, and a part of the problem that they Monahan and Gaudreau got big contracts over the summer, and they were not playing well to start the season. Gaudreau especially, but you're starting to get paid all that money. You've got added expectations now, and with that added expectation comes more responsibility, which does weigh a little more heavily upon you, and as opposed to when you were able to play light and carefree, you had no worries, so. I think now they're starting to get used to the fact that they've got. First off, they had to break out of that funk, and they have to get used to having those added expectations. And I think you're seeing the results of that acclimatization to the added weight.
And if they can keep it up, then maybe they can make a strong push for the playoffs. Right now, they're still a bubble team, though. They're a bubble team, but. If they keep riding the hot hand, if they keep getting good defense,
well, especially if Brian Elliott can actually start winning them a game or two.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you end up the end of the year, you end up being 7th or 8th place. I don't think you're going to shock any teams in the playoffs, but it's experience to build on, right? It's for next year. As much as every team says that, you can only get so much experience, and playoffs are something that the regular season just doesn't provide. So you get the playoff experience, you build on it, you move forward. You add a couple of pieces, you go from there.
Absolutely. And, we're going to move it along now, though, to the Edmonton Oilers, who currently sit with a record of 15, 11, and 5. And not a great week.
No.
Not a great week. But you know what? It could be worse, because at least they got points out of some of those games.
Yeah, they lost a lot in overtime, but they still got the pity point.
They got the pity point, which is crucial these days. Because they lost 2-1 to the Wild in overtime. They lost 4-3 to the Sabres in overtime. That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Because that took a late goal from the Sabres to even tie it up. Like, they were in the driver's seat, and they should have won that game.
Yeah, they should have.
Weren't able to close it out.
And the Sabres aren't really anything special this year, too. That's a game that you should have won if you're leading late in the game.
The Sabres are to a point where I would see them being a bubble team. At this point, they need to sort out their goaltending. I think their goaltending is their weak spot right now, which honestly I think they've kind of gone the wrong way about it. They needed to sort that out first,
and that seems to be their main issue for the last few years has been their goaltending. So they do have some solid defensive and offensive pieces. I'm a big fan. He's not their greatest defenseman, but he's a big bruiser. And Rasmus Ristolainen, he's
going to be their number one center or defenseman. Excuse me, going forward.
Yeah, he's big bodied. He can skate surprisingly well for how big he is. But the biggest thing for me for the Edmonton Oilers was Connor McDavid sticking up for himself in the Flyers game against who Don Cherry said purposely hurt him last year.
And whether or not that's true, it's one thing that I didn't agree with. Lots of people are going, good for him standing up, good for him. That's awesome. He's showing a little bit of fire. He shouldn't have reacted. Like, I know. Like, if you look at Sidney Crosby, players go after him all the time. He ignores it.
Or he just jerseys them on the face-off.
That's true. Crosby will stick up for himself, but he doesn't respond to people jawing
Not anymore. He used to. He used to bitch and whine to the refs. Now he doesn't. That crying Crosby's gone.
No, he just blocks it out, right?
And then scores 3 goals.
Well, exactly. He doesn't respond to people chirping him. Not like he'll respond to people actually like jostling him, checking him tight and stuff like that, but he doesn't respond when they chirp. And that's what I don't even remember what his name is because
something Madden or Manning, I believe.
Manning. He was chirping him. He was chirping him all game, trying to get him off his game.
But to be honest, I think McDavid started the chirping first because McDavid tried to fight him 3 or 4 times and Manning wouldn't fight. And then when McDavid scored...
Manning doesn't need to fight him. And if he does fight him, how does that look when he's taking on the team's biggest star? And you know what? That is one thing that they, if I'm not mistaken, brought Lucic in to do.
Right.
And should have let Lucic do for him.
Yeah, they should have.
Did you ever see like Wayne Gretzky having to fight a guy like that? You don't even have to see Sidney Crosby doing that.
Right, but the era of when Wayne Gretzky's out on the ice, you had guys like Marty McSorley, and those days are long gone.
Well, yes and no, because then you bring in tough guys like Lucic who are tough, will fight, but can play as well.
Right, who's like the evolution of the grinder.
And that's something that Lucic should have taken care of. McDavid shouldn't have had to think about that. He shouldn't have been chirping him. He shouldn't have responded to any chirping.
Now, my favorite thing, though, was right after McDavid scored, he looked right at him and called him like a fucking bitch or something like that. And you could see it plain as day on the camera. That was awesome.
That's when Don Cherry usually says, "Don't read lips, kid." But see, this is just one thing where I'm going, you know what? That to me says more about his character, but to me it doesn't say anything good about him. That's something that he is a star in the league, and he's a future star. He is going to be a star in the league for the next 15 years. He needs to get used to that crap happening. Guys are going to run him. Guys are going to chirp at him all day long. He needs to learn to ignore that, block it out, play his game, and let his teammates take care of it.
I agree, but I can also understand the frustration after missing so much time.
Well,
you want to get something off your chest. Especially, he said that the guy was, saying that he did purposely do it. So yeah, he should have handled it differently.
You know how much crap guys chirp at each other.
It's ridiculous.
They say absolutely anything. And I did hear about one of the old enforcers that said, "I would have said anything to get a star player off his game." And he said the instant that they responded to my chirping, he said, "I knew I had him." He said, "I knew mentally I had him off his game." Because what's McDavid like? Yeah, McDavid still scored a couple of goals, but they lost the game.
Yeah, but that wasn't McDavid's fault.
No, it's not McDavid's fault, but he needs to concentrate on getting his team to play better. And yeah, he's got to concentrate on his game, but now he's the captain. He's got to get everyone else to play better. He's got to hold everyone else accountable. And how is he going to do that when he's getting into some fucking schoolyard drama with some guy that ran him into the boards? Shit happens.
Yeah, you'll have to just wait to see if it's something that continues or if it was just a one-off because it was the guy who hurt him.
It was a year ago.
But it's the first time that he's seen him since, right? So
yeah, I know. But you know what? Move past it. You know what? Shit happens. And you've just got to get past it, play your game, and win. Like, I understand part of it was probably that he's frustrated that the team has not been doing well.
Well, yeah, and not to mention the Flyers have won, 6 or 7 straight now? So 9 straight. So, yeah,
they're on quite the hot streak. But he took a game that that with 5 goals, they should be winning a game.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I think it was Cam Talbot that was probably in net. He needs to stop more pucks, obviously. The whole team needs to play better as a whole because I think McDavid's just propping him up. But if that's the case, he needs to be concentrating on getting his own team better and not getting into some stupid kerfuffles with a player that, whether he did it purposefully or not, got him injured last year. Injuries happen, whether it's on purpose or not. Like, he's going to get run. There are guys for the next 15 years, I'm sure already in his life that have been running him.
Oh, for sure.
And trying to injure him. You'd think he'd be used to it by now.
Yeah. Maybe it was just how he responded because he's never been hurt like that before, right? So
that's certainly
possible. We'll have to see how he reacts the next time they play the Flyers.
Yeah, and I don't know. Do they play them again this year?
I'm not too sure. I'd have to look into that. I'd imagine I think it was the first time they played them this year, so I'd imagine they probably play one more home and home, right?
So that will be an interesting game, but hopefully now McDavid's got that all out of his system and he can concentrate on getting them to win a damn game.
Yeah, or next game, go out and score, but get Lucic to go and fight anybody.
Which is what he should be doing. That's why they've got guys like Milan Lucic and Pat Maroon there.
Yeah.
They are there to take care of any crap that goes on. And Lucic doesn't.
No, he hasn't. I don't even think he's fought, or maybe once or twice this year.
The game that Kadri was running him around, he did nothing. That's when Lucic needs to come over and go, if you do this again, I'm going to take your head and slam it into the ice.
Or that's where you take one of those, accidental on purpose interference calls or
exactly.
something along those lines.
Ram your elbow into his head. It happens.
Yep.
It happens. But you know what? We'll see what happens with the Edmonton Oilers. They're sitting on a not terrible record right now, but man, they got to pick it up because they have not been playing well recently. But speaking of not playing well, Vancouver.
Surprise, surprise.
To finish off the roundup here, they are sitting with a record of 12, 15, and 2. And as usual, they are a shit show. They lost to the Devils 3-2, won against the Lightning, which actually isn't that surprising because Ben Bishop hasn't been very good.
The Lightning haven't been playing well lately.
They have not, no. But then they lost to Florida 4-2 and then lost to the Capitals 3-0. They are like a ship going into a fog and with no instruments, and they can't find their way out.
It's like they're in the Bermuda Triangle and they're not drowning. They're kind of just floating around and they're not going anywhere. They're disappeared. No one's seen them, and you want to figure out what's going on with them. They need to just tear it down and rebuild. They said it's not fair to do that to the Sedins, so we'll get rid of them.
Yeah.
There's teams that are interested. Now they might have to retain some salary, but move on.
They would have to.
Move on from them. You're not going anywhere with them.
There's some teams that for sure, I'm sure if you traded the Sedins, held back, let's say 50% salary, and that which is the max that you can hold back, you'd probably get a couple of first rounders
and
out of it, or a couple of seconds.
That's what they need.
Exactly. They need draft picks. They need more high-end picks in their system, and obviously they just don't have it. But they need to bottom out, and I know we've mentioned that before, but they need to, from where I'm sitting as a Leafs fan, I've been in their exact situation for years.
And the hardest part about it is admitting that it's time to rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think Vancouver's ownership wants to.
They don't, because they feel like they're going to lose money. They feel like they're not going to be able to line their pockets, and they feel like people aren't going to come to the games.
Which, you know what, I think is flawed thinking. Because if you come out and say it, like, now, the Leafs have a pretty interesting fan base. They've already put up with it for enough years, and I think if they hadn't done what they did, they would have lost a lot of that fan base. Which Vancouver might be getting to that point.
Well, yeah, because eventually if you keep putting a shit product on the ice, fans are going to have enough.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to pay the money to come see a crap team.
Yeah.
I'd rather pay the money to see all these young guys you call up from the AHL or whatever.
Absolutely.
Who want to be there, who are trying. I would pay $50, $60 to go see that game than I would to pay the same $50 to watch them skate around in their own zone with two aging forwards who aren't very good anymore.
Well, they are good, but they just I don't know that their bodies can put up with an 82-game schedule.
Not
anymore.
with the speed and the skill that's in today's game. With all these younger, the league just seems to get younger and younger every year.
Oh, absolutely,
and it's more skilled and faster. And guys like Sedins, who are those old school, European players, it's not the same system or the same style of hockey for them anymore.
Yeah, it's I don't even know at this point where they go. Because their plan was to rebuild on the fly, and they've done an okay job doing that. They got a couple of nice pieces, but they haven't done it well enough. And you're seeing the fruits of their labor at this point, where they've made some very odd deals, and they got a half decent defense, but their goaltending just isn't there. That's been the biggest clusterfuck of all time, was how they dealt with that goaltending. Because they got Bo Horvat, but really, I think Corey Schneider would make that team seem a lot better.
True, because Ryan Miller is not the same Ryan Miller that he was in Buffalo.
No.
He's not.
He wasn't even
close.
the same Ryan Miller in Buffalo by the end of it.
But yeah, he's a few years ago, say 6-7 years ago, he was one of the top goalies in the league. Now he's probably within the bottom 10, I would say, of goalies.
Of starters, absolutely. He's getting old, right? He's not the same goalie that he was, and you know what? You see that happen with a lot of goalies. Look at King Henrik Lundqvist. He hasn't played in 3 games.
Well, to be fair, Ranta has got 2 shutouts back to back. So,
well, and you know what? Playing behind that team, it's not.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's that hard to do that, but it happens. Not everyone can be Roberto Luongo and still keep playing when they're 35, 36.
Well, and it's weird too because Luongo's the kind of goalie that only does well when he faces a lot of shots.
Yeah.
You put 14, 15 shots on him a game, he lets in 2 or 3. You put 30 or 40, he lets in 1.
Yeah.
He needs to be busy, and you'd think in his older age that would catch up to him, but he's still playing pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, I think most of it's mindset and whatnot, but, some guys can keep playing when they're older and some can't.
Maybe it's just because of how funny he is on Twitter and whatnot. That
Keeps him young.
Keeps him young, because he is pretty funny.
Oh, man, but Vancouver's just going from bad to worse, and there's
every
no
week,
easy way out.
Every week, it's the same thing. We do this, we get to Vancouver, and they need to do this, they need to do this, they had another shitty week. It's almost to the point where I don't even like talking about them because I feel like we're upsetting the fans because we're just repeating ourselves week in, week out.
We can't help but repeat ourselves when it's the same crap every week, right? Like it's almost not even funny to me anymore. It was when it was first happening. I was going,
especially when they started off like 4-0 or whatever it was.
Exactly, and the bottom just fell out for that 8 or 9 game losing streak they had. But now it's just getting sad because, like I said, they're a ship going into the fog, and they have no idea how to get out.
Yeah,
right?
it's got to be a rebuild. It's got to be a teardown.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll move along now though, because what else can we really say about Vancouver at this point?
That we haven't already said for 3 or 4 weeks in a row now.
Exactly. We're gonna have to come up with some new stuff, I think. But I want to touch quickly on the Leafs cap situation. Now, the Leafs currently have about, according to Cap Friendly, have about $2.5 million worth of cap space. But where they're really up against it is with their roster size. Because right now, their roster size they're at the max of 23. But you've got guys like Josh Levo, who went down, did a conditioning stint in the Marlies. But when he came back up after that, because that was only for a couple of weeks, they have basically said that, he's too injured to play. So he's just kind of hanging out. He's not doing much, but it means that they don't have to put him on waivers.
So he's just kind of sitting there, just
it's kind of like almost the same situation as Frankie Corrado.
Yeah,
where it's just kind of sitting. He's getting paid. He's not playing,
and they're just bruising his ego.
Well, but they don't want to put him on waivers because they don't want to lose him. Now, I think they're keeping Frankie Corrado because eventually they are going to get rid of Roman Polak.
Yes, and looking back at Mike Babcock, he does like to always have the extra defenseman. Absolutely. Just because it's his style, injuries, whatnot, he always does like to have.
The Leafs have had no injuries. And I think that's one thing that they're surprised about.
I mean, they do have a lot of young guys who maybe their bodies are a little bit more spry than other teams, but you don't usually go a whole year without a team losing at least 1 or 2 guys for a decent amount of time.
They've been lucky so far, so hopefully they'll keep that up. But it's interesting because you've got a lot of guys sitting, and obviously they're doing what they're doing with Nathan Horton. That was purely just to dump David Clarkson.
Yeah.
And I think it's worked out very well for them. But then you get guys like Joffrey Lupul, who's on now Roby.Island, which is, by the way, an inside joke even with the Leafs now.
Isn't Robida now like a player personnel or something along those lines because he failed his physical and he can't make the team?
Yeah, so he basically, he's just almost kind of an assistant sort of thing. Special assistant. He runs some skates. I was hearing at I think it's Rico for a lot of the players that don't play. He kind of runs some drills and stuff like that. Which, you know what, good on him because he was a very good player in his day. He's got a lot.
Played for Florida for a few years too, did he not, Robida?
Oh, he played everywhere. He played in Dallas for a while. I remember there at the end. But
now, how long is Lupul out for? Like, is he going to be back this year or?
Oh no, he's never coming back.
Never coming back?
No, Leafs don't want him back. They're going to run out the last 2 years because he's under contract for $5.25 million.
Yeah, that's a little
for
ridiculous.
The next 2 seasons. No one's going to touch him. He's not healthy. He never stays healthy.
He's played how many games in the last 3 seasons? 30 games.
Not much. And you know what? When he was good, he was really good.
He was good. He was always in front of the net.
So unlucky. And the one healthy season he had, he got that big contract, and obviously he's never lived up to it. He's had injury problems He had injury problems beforehand, and he's had injury problems after.
They took a gamble and it hasn't paid off.
God, and that's still Dave Nonis coming back to bite the Leafs in the ass. But actually, no, that one was Brian Burke.
That makes sense.
That's going back even
that
further.
Seems like a Burke move.
But you got guys like Josh Levo, who they don't want to get rid of.
But they don't want to play him.
Well, they can't play. They have no space. That's the thing. They have got such a glut of wingers that they can't play them all. Ever. Like, you look at all of the wingers they have that could probably... First off, they've buried Brooks Laich, Milan McCulloch, and Colin Greening in the minors.
Yeah.
And they don't even play every game.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, I would have thought Milan McCulloch would have been at least a little bit of a help, up front, but...
Well, he probably would have been. I think all three of them played quite well last year. And I really thought Brooks Laich was going to stay up, but...
Especially to mentor some youth, because he's been around for a long time.
I think he would have been a better choice to stay up than, say, Ben Smith.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they prefer Ben Smith.
Didn't they got him from the waivers and not from Colorado, Ben Smith.
Yes, they did. That's a little sad. But for some reason, they're hot on Ben Smith. He's supposed to be good on faceoffs or something like that, but doesn't really do
too much
else. And but that's what I mean. They've buried so many guys in the minors, and that's about 7-8 mil that they've got buried in the minors right now. But they've got so many other players that they just can't play them all. They just don't have the space. And now they've sent down. They're almost having issues with their goaltending now because they've sent down Peter Holland. Or Peter Holland got traded. Excuse me, Jonas Enroth. So I meant to say that he's been sent down. They called up Antoine Bibeau, but guaranteed he's not going to stick around because they want to get Kari Ramo.
It's funny because
most likely
there's a lot worse problems you'd think that you could have. Usually you'd think that having too many players was a good thing, but in the case for the Leafs, it's not.
No, they must have known they were going to be in this spot because they did a lot of moves where, especially with Washington last year and with Ottawa, where they were taking back a lot of salary because they could pay it.
Yeah.
Right? And they took back a lot of players, but now they're reaching they're at 47 contracts right now out of their max at 50.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And they've got 23 guys up with the team right now, 24 if you count Josh Levo. And everything was going good when Hunwick was injured, but then Hunwick came back and it's kind of all gone to shit again, And it's crazy the situation they've gotten themselves into. Like, thank God it worked out for them with Jared Cowan.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to buy him out because he passed the medical, but he was claiming that he didn't pass the medical and that because he wasn't healthy enough, they couldn't buy him out. Went to arbitrator. They found in favor of the Leafs, but they hadn't. That's a big contract.
Yeah, that was a big contract.
They can't afford to pay because they've got a savings of $650,000, but he had a contract of over $3 million. They didn't have that money.
No, they didn't.
So you know what? After this season, especially after next season, they're gonna have to start re-signing a lot of guys, but it's getting difficult now. Like, they're right this very second, they are having to jump through hoops. Thank God they've got Brandon Pridham in there as their capologist or cap guy, whatever, because he's done a masterful job here of keeping them, to the league specifications. But something's got to give somewhere in terms of how many players they've got, and hopefully something will end up happening with the entry draft, or sorry, the expansion draft. Hopefully something will give there, and
and the Leafs are in a good position there because there's a lot of guys that can't get taken because of the fact that they're still on their entry level contracts.
Yeah, so they don't really have to protect too many guys, and that should work out well for them. But at least all of Brooks Laich, Milan McCulloch, and Colin Greening are done after this season. But you got to think they want to try and package them in a trade so that they can kickstart their careers again. Because none of them, I think none. Well, Brooks Laich, I think, could get a contract somewhere for a year, but not at much money. I don't know that the other two could.
Yeah, I don't see it really. Other than
than maybe AHL money. Really?
AHL, you know what? You can make good money in the
Oh,
AHL
you can.
if you're on an AHL only contract.
Yeah.
You can make good money. But I bet that one of the two of Milan Michalek and Colin Greening go over to Europe at that point because, like I said, something's got to give. I hope they can work out a trade to get them out. Peter Holland, they basically just gave away.
Yeah.
I felt so badly for him because I don't think he was a bad player, but Mike Babcock did not like him.
What did they get? Was it a conditional 6 or 4th round pick?
Six if they re-sign him or trade him. They have to give them the 6th round pick in 2018.
Yeah.
So not even this season; it's next season. So basically, they have to just maybe play him, but they don't have to sign him, and they don't have to give up the pick. So essentially,
it's a free rental. Basically,
Toronto has basically done what they did with Bernier, where they just traded him for nothing.
Good old Jonathan Berno.
But with Bernier, what was interesting was that the reason they had to wait to trade him was that half of that contract, or $2 million out of that contract, was signing bonus.
Yeah.
So they paid the signing bonus and then traded him, so that Anaheim only had to pay him actually like $2-something million instead of $4 million.
Yeah, because no one would trade for $4 million for a crappy goalie like Bernier.
No, but,
although he's been playing pretty good. His numbers are pretty solid this year.
Well, playing behind a better team, but if you look at it as he's packaged in that Anderson deal, not so bad.
Yeah.
So that kind of worked out. So it'll be interesting to see where the Leafs go from here. They've got a really good foundation, but like I said, something's got to give this year, and they've got to get some trades going to get some guys out and maybe get some more money out. But if they can keep riding it the way it is, they are going to be golden come the offseason to try and sign someone if they want.
Yeah, especially with the expansion draft, where they'll get some money off of the books at least.
They are going to be sitting pretty to get some good trades, I think, because teams are going to be flipping out. Or at least that's what people are saying.
Yeah.
That's speculation, but I see that happening because there's the Minnesota Wild that you could pull a trade off with for defense, and there's Anaheim. They've got too many defensemen to protect, and too many good defensemen.
Minnesota does. They're very defensive heavy.
Yes.
There's a lot of guys on there who are still under contract for another couple of years too, who they're not going to be able to protect all of them.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But the Leafs are in a good position, despite the fact that they, they're jumping through hoops right now to maintain the league rules here, so that they don't get dinged that way. But you know what? We have, I think, reached the end of the time for this week, and we hope everyone has a good week, and we will talk to you later.